Clinton Anderson, and I have a method for training horses. Getting horses to behave is simple. It's training people that's the real trick. Join me as I tackle some of the most challenging situations with problem horses and with problem owners.
Have you ever noticed when you watch a really good rider ride their horse, when the horse jumps left, they go left. When the horse jumps right, they go right. They have really good balance. But in reality, what I like to call balance is a great secure seat. See, a secure seat in my mind is that you do not need the reins and you do not need your legs for balance. When somebody's not a very good rider and they lose their balance, what's the first thing they do? They grab for the horse's mouth, don't they, for balance. And the second thing they do is grip with their legs, especially from their knees down. Because when we get scared or feel threatened, we go into that fetal position where we grab here and we grab with our legs. That just makes our horse feel trapped and claustrophobic, okay? So in today's show, what we're gonna talk about is how to develop that secure seat where you do not need your reins or your legs for balance. You can sit and use your seat to have balance there. So I'm gonna show you a lot of exercises to help you develop that with your horse. Hi, my name's Clinton Anderson, and on today's TV show, we're gonna be working with our rescue mare, Cider. If you remember from our previous show, Cider was a rescue horse from Habitat for Horses, which is a great organization that rescues horses that are starved and abused. And you know Cider was starved and abused. She was mistreated, they had to have her seized, and since then we've got a hold of her and we're using her to display the Downunder Horsemanship methods through this television series. Up to this point, Cider's been doing really good. She's coming along just great. Today we're gonna be working with her on the saddle, and I want to show you some exercises to help you develop a secure seat, and I'm going to help her develop her confidence to be able to travel on a loose rein and to be able to control her own speed as well, okay? So before we actually get on Cider today, it's very, very important that we get her listening to us on the ground. Remember, groundwork ensures that you're going to have a safe and successful ride. So what I want to do here today is show you how you can use your bridle or McCarty rein set to do groundwork on the ground, okay? But before I get on it, I want to show you a few little tips about putting a bridle on correctly. A lot of horses develop poor bridling habits by just poor habits from human beings, basically, really what it comes down to, okay? I'm a real stickler for making sure that my horse offers me their head. Even when I go to put the halter on, I always make sure that two things happen. The horse has got to lower his head down, level with my belt, and he's got to tip his nose towards me. I never put a halter on a horse where I'm like reaching for their nose. When you put a halter or bridle on, when the horse's head is tipped away from you, okay, they're basically escaping you. That's how they get into habits of sticking their head up real high and trying to avoid you. So I always want to make sure their head's tipped towards me and they'll lower their head down like that. Good girl, okay? So, Cider now has had about 20 rides, okay? So she's coming along nicely. She's not by any means completely trained, but she's coming along nicely. Even when I go to take the halter off, you see how I tip her head towards me? And then I just let that slide off. But even when it slides off, I want her to lower her head down here, there we go, and tip her nose towards me. You can get it around the side of her face here. Excellent. And I'll put this around her neck now. So I'm gonna take my bridle off. And I want to show you some good bridling habits to get into with your horses, okay? So, for starters, I like to keep the halter around their neck. That way, if the horse went to leave, I can pull their head and neck back towards me. Let me just move her over here just a little bit so the camera can see just a little bit easier. There we go, okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the reins over her neck, and I want to get her to where she tips her head towards me, like so. Now I'm gonna get the bridle in my right hand, and I like to get the bridle around their chin like that. That way, if the horse goes to turn their head away, okay, if she goes to turn away, I can pull her nose back towards me like this. Now, with my left hand, I'm gonna put my thumb in her mouth, rub the roof of her mouth, and when she opens her mouth, I'm gonna pull the bridle up with my right hand. Just pull it up. I'm gonna do one ear, then the other ear, okay, and get all her hair straightened out here. It's very important that you pull the bridle up. You don't shove it up. Like a lot of people do this with their horses. Okay, is they'll kind of change hands like this, and you know, they'll get here and then they'll kind of push the bit up into the horse's mouth, and Then they'll kind of get it up there like that, and then they'll you know, try and shove it in there, and then the horse gets up and then they change hands and the horse has got their head tipped away. That's how these horses develop bad bridling habits. Okay, get their head tipped towards you. By getting the horse's head tipped towards you, it's going to make a big difference in how they accept it. If their head's tipped towards you, it already means that they want to accept the bridle to begin with. But if you start out with their head in the wrong direction, okay, you're starting out with the odds against you. So let's get a head over here a little bit. Tip a nose here. Let's get a head down. We're lowering a head and neck here. That's it. Get this around a nose, so that way if she goes to leave, I can pull it back. So my left hand just guides the bit into her mouth. My right hand is what pulls the bridle up. There we go. One ear, two ears. And then go ahead and get her all hair straightened out here. Okay. And the whole time, you notice that she's got her head tipped towards me. Very, very important to keep that nose tipped towards you. There we go. Okay, that's a go. Excellent. And then you can go ahead and adjust your bridle accordingly. Now, when I say adjust, I like to have a bit in a horse's mouth so that there's no wrinkles in their mouth. I know the theory used to be years ago that you always wanted 3 wrinkles in the horse's mouth when you put a bridle on, okay? I don't want any wrinkles in their mouth when I go to put the bridle on. I want it to be, or it's just there in the corner of their mouth. So if I've got any wrinkles, like this is a little tight, this bridle, so I'm gonna loosen it off one more hole. If you've got any wrinkles, okay, it's gonna be pulling on your horse's mouth all the time, and I don't want that. That's a go. Now, I always want to use a leather curb strap underneath your bit. What the leather curb strap will do is stop the bit from sliding through the horse's mouth if he would open his mouth, okay? Now, these reins that I've got on her right now, these are what you call McCarty reins, okay? It's a great training tool to use under saddle and on the ground.
Check out our latest catalogue from Downunder Horsemanship. It's filled with beautiful imagery and in-depth information on all the products used in this show. Visit our website or call this number and we'll send it to your door free of charge.
Now, Cider hasn't been worked with in a few days, so she's a little fresh, so this will be good for her before I get on her to prepare her. The other reason why I like using the McCarty reins to do groundwork, if I've got a horse that's really pushy and kind of heavy and disrespectful, and especially those horses that have learned to develop that habit of jerking that rein, there she's a little fresh there, jerking that rope through your hand when you're lunging them, I'll go ahead and do the groundwork with the bridle, because that bridle has got a lot more bite than what that halter's got. So if I've got a horse that's learnt to pull on you and jerk that lead rope through your hand, go ahead and do all your groundwork with the bridle. There we go. Excellent. So you can tell she's kind of a little fresh here, so I'll just move her around here. Lunging stage 2, step out in front, move that front end away. Remember, groundwork is what keeps you safe. Step in front. There we go. Step in front, step in front, step in front, step in front. Good girl. Yield. See, I'm doing a lot of changes of direction. The more changes of direction you do, the more they'll use that thinking side of their brain. Okay? Do a little bit of stirrup driving with her. Make sure they're not worried about that stirrup flapping on their side. Okay? Yield her hindquarters here, get her to step away from that leg. She's a little heavy here, so I'm going to move her butt. Bring that front end through. There we go. So this little bit of preparation that I'm doing here is going to keep me from getting bucked off. It's very, very important to prepare your horse on the ground. Stirrup driving's a great exercise to do to make sure that he's not frightened of the stirrups. Yield that hindquarters, bring the front end through. I want to make sure I can flap this up and down and my horse doesn't overreact to this. So Cider's by no means trained just yet, but she's coming along really good. So go. Yield that hindquarters. There we go. Yield. So her groundwork's coming along. Every day she's getting a little bit better. But I love using these McCarty reins to do some of your groundwork. Side pass her a little bit. Yield. Send her through the gap. Turn. So even if you don't have the stick, just use the end of the McCarty reins. Yield her hindquarters. Bring her on through the gap. If she gets a little lazy, I can tap her on the butt there. Good girl. Yield. Do a little ascending exercise. And right there, she's just a little heavy on that bit. So I might just tug on her just a little bit here. Like right there. And so, hey, don't lean on that pressure. There, that was better. There, notice that time she got off it a lot better. So I just ran through a variety of exercises that we've already shown her. Okay, this is the advantage of doing the groundwork. Get control of their feet. You can never back your horses up too much. The better you get your horse backing up, the more responsive they'll be in everything that you do. Yield that forequarters. Get that respect out of them. Bring that forequarters through. Radio. Good girl. Go ahead and flex her a little bit. Oh, I like that. Make sure they're light on the ground. So now, she would be ready to ride. But we had to prepare her a little bit, especially because she's had a couple of days off. She was kind of feeling her oats a little bit and wanted to jump around a little bit, and that's all right. They're gonna feel fresh. It's just important that you get rid of that freshness on the ground before you get on. But instead of just doing mindless lunging, where you go around and around, do lots of changes of direction. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna tighten up this cinch again before I actually get on her, okay? I'm gonna pick it up here. Now, talking about the cinch, this is a new cinch that we just designed here, okay? And I'll talk to you a little bit about this in a second, but it's got a roller buckle on it, which makes it really, really easy to do up the girth, okay? And more than anything, its unique shape enables the horse to move their elbow a lot more so that the girth doesn't rub them. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. So I take one more wrap around. Now I'm going to do it up pretty firm now. Okay. This is a new product that I've been working on for about 1.5 years, and it's taken that long for me to be really happy with it and get it made just the way I want. I designed a new girth to allow a horse to have a lot more freedom of their, of their elbows and their shoulders and when they're moving back and forth, okay? Two things that restrict horses. The wider a girth is, especially behind their elbow, stops them from stepping that foot back in a turn, especially during a roll back or a spin. You want that inside front foot to step over to the side and almost back a little bit. But the thicker and wider a girth is, they basically run into that girth and it makes them feel uncomfortable. Another thing that I wanted to help solve was horses' girth galling, okay? A lot of young horses that have never been saddled before, and even though Cider wasn't that young, okay, she'd never been broken in before or really wore a saddle any consistency, okay? So that skin underneath behind their elbow is kind of soft. Well, when they start being ridden a lot, they're naturally going to get some girth gall there because it's going to rub that tender skin, and until that skin kind of toughens up a little bit, they're going to have some sores there. Well, what this girth does is it takes away a lot of the friction behind your horse's elbow. If you look at the unique design of it, it starts out wide, where a typical girth would stay wide the whole way up. This one is deliberately cut away with a rolled edge, so it's a lot thinner through here. And what that does is it allows the horse to step that elbow back, so when they're trotting or cantering, they're moving their shoulders, there's a lot less friction. The other cool thing about this girth is the patterned roller buckle. A lot of girths, when you go to do them up, can be pretty difficult to get done up, especially if it's a little lady and a big horse and she doesn't have a lot of strength. This unique roller buckle enables you that when you do that girth up, it just rolls straight up really, really easy. So you can get the girth done up tight enough the first time. A lot of people don't get their girth done up tight enough and they run into a wreck, okay? You can actually see it when it's on her here. You see how right here, on the girth here, you see how Cider had a little bit of girth gall right here about a week ago, right here inside here, okay? Well, we just started using this girth about a week ago. It just came in. And you can see the wideness of the girth here. You see how it's deliberately cut away in here. Well, since I started riding her in this girth in about last week, it's enabled this girth gall to heal up here because we've cut it away so that when she moves her elbow back and forth, let me just pick a leg up here. When she moves her elbow back and forth, you see how she's got a lot more freedom there behind the girth. See, normally the girth would come down here. So when she steps that back, it runs into it. Okay, by this design of the performance cinch, she can move her elbow back and forth and it's cut away here, so it gives her a lot more freedom through here to move her leg, which is going to drastically cut back on the horses that get girth gall and make it a lot more comfortable for your horse to move their front legs laterally. So with the patented roller buckle, it's much easier to get done up. I like to do my girth up 3 times before I get on a horse. When I saddle a horse, I just want to do the girth up snug. Do a little groundwork, do it up a little firmer. And then do a little bit more groundwork, and the third time I do it up pretty darn tight. I want that girth to be tight enough, but it's not going to come loose during the ride. But that's why it's important to do it over 3 different stages. If you just put the saddle on and then immediately just yank that girth up as tight as you can get it, a lot of horses will become reactive. They'll want to pull back or buck or rear up in the air or lay down on the ground because that girth being done up tight makes them feel trapped and claustrophobic. By doing it up in stages, you'll eliminate that, okay? So the performance cinch will make a big difference to your horse. It's a lot more comfortable. It comes in a nylon design like this one, or it comes in 100% wool fleece. It's just personal preference. I personally like the nylon better myself. I think it's a little bit slicker on them, but some people like lamb's wool. It's just personal preference, basically. But I will never ride a horse from now on without this performance cinch because it makes a big difference in how the horse moves, that's for sure. So, we've done the girth up 3 times. Before I get on her now, I just want to move her feet around just a little bit more. You never want to do a girth up and then just get straight on a horse. Okay, you never want to do a girth up and just get straight on them, because they might be a little bit tight there from you adjusting it. So always move their feet just a tad bit before you go get on them, especially a young colt. Yield, yield, yield. There we go. Good girl. Move that front end over here. See how I can keep my feet still? Good girl. And influence her feet. I'm gonna ask her to drop her head down. Get really good at your horses from your 2 fingers, dropping that head down. Good girl. Now she's ready to ride.
Anything worth having is worth working for, that's for sure. Not gonna make it here if you got any quit in you.
This is where I needed to be the best that I could be. And that's just what we do here.
Dedication, ambition, passion. To some, these are more than ideals. They are a lifestyle, a code, a path to something greater. If you think you're one of the select few who can rise to the challenge, who can dedicate themselves to mastering the method through 70 weeks of in-depth, hands-on training, let the Clinton Anderson Academy catapult your skills and provide you with the ultimate experience. If you have what it takes, become a Clinton Anderson certified clinician and change your life.
Up till this point, we've given Cider about 20 rides, okay? And I've just had the snaffle in the mouth about probably 6 or 7 rides now. Usually the first 10 to 14 rides I like to do in the Aussie hackamore to get them given to that pressure on their nose. And then once I get that good with the hackamore, then I'll go ahead and put the bit in their mouth. First thing I do when I get on her is just reinforce our lateral flexion. Remember, lateral flexion is the key to vertical flexion. She's coming along nicely now with the lateral flexion. She's given pretty good left and right. But at this point, if I feel her lean on the snaffle bit, I'm gonna bump a little quicker like that to get her off it. Because I suppose what I'm trying to say is she knows better than now. So once the horse understands what I want them to do, then I'm gonna get a little pickier about how light they are. So the things that I've been working on is making sure that she'll move forward when I squeeze and go forward motion. I'm starting to work on yielding her hindquarters and getting her to follow her nose and give to that bit, okay? So the first couple of minutes when you get on, just work on this lateral flexion and make sure the horse is not in a hurry to go anywhere. A lot of horses develop that habit of when you get on, if you go somewhere straight away, then they start walking off when you go to get on them. Then they, you get halfway on and they're already heading out of town. That's because horses know what you're gonna do before you actually do it. Okay, so it's very, very important to get on and make sure that they wait for you and don't just take charge and walk off by themselves. So, what I'd like to do now is work on getting her to yield her hindquarters. So I'm gonna bend her head, I'm gonna put my leg back, press, that's it. And I want her to just step that hindquarters away laterally. There we go. And then when I take my leg off, I want her to stop and soften. There's 3 buttons on a horse's side. Back behind the back cinch means move your hindquarters, in the middle means move your ribs, and up by the girth means move your shoulders. Well, I want to teach the horse that depending on where I put my leg, depends on what part of your body I want you to move. Remember, we need to gain control of the 5 body parts. They are the head and neck, pole, shoulders, ribs, and hips. So I'm going to flex her head as number 1. Now, you notice that she started moving then before I even moved my leg. She's anticipating. So that means I'm not going to move her and I'm going to go and flex her a few times. The flexing her head is not the cue for her to move her feet. The cue for her to move her feet is me there, gently pressing with my heel. See how I don't have spurs on her? I want her light enough at this beginning stage that I can just touch her with my bare heel and she'll step that hindquarters around. She gets a little lazy, I can reach back there with the end of my rein and spank her here. Excellent. I like that there. This is very similar to what we did on the ground with her. Yield the hindquarters stage 1. So I'm going to flex her, press, bend her head here. I want her to pivot on her front feet and have her hindquarters move. She's a little lazy here, so I spank behind my leg. That's another reason why I like these McCarty reins. Take my leg off, wait till she stops and softens. So as soon as I release that leg, that is her cue to stop moving her feet. When I take that leg off, she stops and softens. Good girl, okay? So when I first get on a young colt, I'm gonna go ahead and yield those hindquarters a few times each way before I walk them off, because I wanna make sure they're not gonna buck my butt off, okay? So I wanna make sure I can move her feet, and if she went to buck or do something silly, I've already got her head bent around so I can disengage her. Very good.
Ever wish Clinton Anderson would just come by and help you with your horse, or that he would put on a clinic in your own arena? Well, now you can get the next best thing. Meet the Clinton Anderson Certified Clinicians. Trained by Clinton himself, these great horsemen have met all the requirements of the Clinton Anderson Academy. 16 months of intensive training at the Downunder Horsemanship Ranch. Theoretical and practical testing on Clinton's method. Hands-on experience with problem horses. Now, there is a Clinton Anderson method expert willing and able to come to where you live and ride to teach a private lesson or put on a public clinic. Learn at your own pace. Get personalized instruction, all without having to travel far from home. So if you can't find the time or the money to come to a Clinton Anderson clinic at his ranch, now you have an option. Get accelerated results. Let a Clinton Anderson certified clinician bring the method to you. Visit certifiedclinician.com for more.
So let's start working on what we call yield to a stop, which is getting her to move forward. And instead of just doing our one rein stops, now we're actually going to get her to yield her hindquarters and disengage as she comes to a stop. So I'm going to slide my hand down, pick it up to my hip, at the same time press with my leg. I want her to disengage her hindquarters 360 degrees. And then when she does, take my foot off and wait till she stops and softens. It's very important to wait till the horse stops and softens before you let that rein go, because a lot of horses, when they're stiff, they're going to want to take that bit away from you. If you release it when they're heavy, that's what you're rewarding. I'm going to slide my hand down, I'm going to pick up, yield, take my leg off. Good girl. I like that then. As soon as I released that leg, she stopped and softened, okay? It's very normal in the beginning for your horse to want to brace against that bit when you're asking them to bend and soften while their feet are moving. Slide my hand down, press. She's being a little lazy, so I'm going to reach back there and tap behind my leg and say, come on now, I need that hindquarters to move. Yield that hindquarters, take my leg off, wait till she stops and softens. Excellent. Okay. Now you want to be able to practice this, of course, at all three gaits, doing it the walk, trot, and canter. But make sure you can do it going slow first. If you can't do it going slow, you're not going to be able to do it fast. Press. See how she's ignoring my leg? Spank behind that leg to get him to yield that hip. Good girl. And then release. Excellent there. Okay? Remember, it's squeeze, cluck, and then spank. Squeeze is, I'm asking you to go. Cluck is, come on, I'm warning you, and spank is spank. Move those feet. So another little exercise I've just started working on the last couple of days with her is getting her to bend and soften as she moves forward, getting a little bit more softness from a steering wheel. So what I'm going to do is pick up on that inside rein, and I want her to not only to follow her nose, and she's already been taught this, but I want to start to get her to bend and soften her nose a little bit more down and around as she bends, okay? So I'm going to pick up there. When she drops that nose down, I'm going to release that hand back to my knee. So I'm going to pick up and release it. That's it. Pick up and release it. Now, if she gets a little lazy here and starts wandering out with her shoulders, I'll use the end of the rein and kind of tap her on her shoulder here and make her shoulders come back into the turn. Like right here, she's kind of leaning out towards the gate. So anytime the horse leans, use the end of this to bring him back into the turn. There we go. I'm looking for her to get soft to this bit and snaffle as she's moving her feet. I want her to drop her head and neck down as she moves forward and around. And that's the advantage of using a bit, is that the hackamore will get them soft, but that bit really finishes that off. It gets them to drop that head and neck down and really soften to that. Okay. Forward and around. She gets a little lazy, I can use the end of my rein here. I'm going to spank behind my legs to create that forward movement. Now, when you first start this, your horse will probably be a little stiff. You can't ask for too much bend initially, because the more bend you ask them for, the more they'll just disengage their hindquarters and brace up against you. So forward motion is very, very important, to go forward and around. So in the beginning, you might have to take a little less bend to get that forward motion. There we go. Excellent. So I'll practice this bending transition a lot out in the trail, where I'll like trot them down the trail, I'll bend them down, bend them 3 or 4 circles, okay? And then go trot them off again. The more transitions you can do and bend them around, the softer your horses get. So I pull to my hip, I release to my knee. Pull to my hip, release to the knee. I like what she's starting to do here. She's starting to leave that head in that bent position. A horse that's really soft will not try to snap their head back straight. Okay, every time she goes to straighten it out, I'll bring her back. But I like the fact that she's not trying to snap it back straight away. Good girl. Excellent. So getting that horse to not only bend laterally is important, but now I'm asking her to bend and actually give a little bit more vertically as she does it, so that we can start working on that vertical flexion. Good girl. Anytime I stop, I always work on this lateral flexion. You can never do too much of it.
Clinton Anderson, world-renowned horseman, has designed one of today's most unique handcrafted saddles. Combining time-worn traditions with the latest innovations in saddle making, Clinton and Martin Saddlery have created the ultimate Aussie saddle, hand-tooled, double-stitched out of premium leather. It's tree handcrafted from Dakota pine. The perfectly engineered fiberglass seat guarantees a natural fit. Eliminates pressure points. This is a saddle built with real life in mind. It gives a rider unique balance, security, comfort, a strong seat, and a perfect fit. Maximizing performance for you and your horse through coordinated movement, a secure and balanced seat, free range of motion, just as nature intended. Clinton Anderson combines the perfect combination of Aussie and American saddle making. Clinton Anderson Aussie Saddle, made exclusively for Downunder Horsemanship. Call or click to order today, or shop our store at a Clinton Anderson tour event near you.
Now, a lot of people ask what type of bit to use when you start to ride your horse with the McCarty reins. As a general rule, I'm going to use a smooth snaffle. Now, snaffle bits are meant for lateral flexion. Shank bits are meant for vertical flexion. What do I call a shank bit? A shank bit is anything that's got shanks on it, basically sides to it with a curb strap, okay, or like a chain curb strap. So when you pick up, it adds leverage to the horse. Snaffle bits are meant for lateral flexion to get them really soft from side to side. I have no problem riding a shank bit, but I want to make sure all my basics are done first in a snaffle bit first. So I usually use a smooth snaffle, okay? However, if I've got a horse that's a little dull and heavy and doesn't really want to pay attention, I might go ahead and ride him in a twisted wire snaffle or even a square snaffle. A twisted wire and a square snaffle, what they'll do is they'll make the horse feel a little bit more uncomfortable when he leans against that bit. So it'll encourage the horse to give. No different to what my rope halters do. You know my rope halters are a little stiffer and they got the knots on the noseband. They discourage your horse from wanting to pull and lean on that halter. Where if you use a typical thick webbing halter or leather halter, the horses lean and drag you all over the place, okay? So traditionally, I'll just use a smooth snaffle. But if I've got a horse that's a little heavy and pushy, don't be frightened to use a twisted wire snaffle or a square snaffle for a week or two, and then you can go back to a smooth once you've got your horse lightened up there, okay? It's very important, though, to have a leather curb strap underneath the bit, underneath their jaw, to stop that bit from sliding through their mouth, okay? Very, very important. So let's work on a little bit of vertical flexion here, okay? When I start introducing vertical flexion, I want to be able to pick up on the reins. Let me turn the side on. And when the horse gives, I want to be able to give back to her, okay? So I'm going to pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, there. And as soon as she gives to that bit, I want to throw those reins away very, very quickly. The quicker you release those reins when the horse softens, the better. So I do it in 4 stages. This is why I like using these reins so much. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, there. As soon as she gives, throw it away. It's what I call a hot potato give. The quicker you release the reins, the quicker the horse understands he did the right thing. 1, 2, 3 to your knee, 4. In the beginning, when I first start teaching vertical flexion, I keep my hands down low on my legs. The lower your legs are, the better leverage you get, okay? The higher your hands get, the less leverage you get. 1, 2, 3, 4, wait, there. Now I really exaggerate in the beginning. I throw the reins up their neck to really exaggerate to the horse and for you as a rider to release that and get that timing right. Remember, it's feel, timing, and experience. 1, 2, 3, wait, 4, and release it, just like that. 1, 2, 3, there we go, excellent. So once you teach your horse how to do this vertical flexion at the standstill, introduce it at the walk, okay? So Cider's coming along. Like I said, she's only had 20 rides, so she's not perfect yet, but she's coming along. So I'm gonna do the same thing at the walk. 1, 2, 3, 4, there. As soon as she gives, throw those reins back to her. I love how calm and relaxed she is, good girl, okay? She's real good out in the trail. We've ridden her quite a bit outside the last 10, 15, well, not 15 rides, probably about the last 10 rides, we've taken her outside quite a bit. 1, 2, 3, wait, there, release. I like to get my young horses outside as quickly as possible and get them used to being out there and just kind of moving forward. It's great to encourage a horse to move forward, get them out on a trail and following like an old dirt road somewhere or through, you know, a path through some trees. Wait, there we go, good girl. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now once the horse understands how to just give that hot potato give, then you can start asking for that softness a little bit longer. Where like now I'm just gonna pick up and hold her a little bit longer, there, until she softens. Pick up again. There we go, and release it. Another thing that we just started with her a couple of days ago is yielding her hindquarters and then bringing her front end through. Okay, let me show you here. I'm gonna pick up, disengage her hindquarters, 360. See how she's walking forward? I'm gonna put more bend in her here. Yield the hindquarters. Now I'm gonna open the door and tap with my outside foot and see if I can get her to, there. Excellent. See how she took a couple of steps across with the front end? Good girl. And this is building her up for being able to do a little spin or a roll back. So I just started this with her. Yield her hindquarters, get that hindquarters moving, and then pick up. You can tap them with the side of your foot on their elbow. There we go. She's just now, good girl, starting to figure out how to step that front end across. The quicker you can get control of that front end, the better. I'll do it on this side. Bender, yield to hindquarters, disengage. Now, I'm gonna open up the door, sit on my left butt cheek. There. Tapping with the side of the stirrup on that elbow. This side she's a little better, isn't she? See how she's stepping around? Good girl. So even just after 20 rides, you can start to get a handle on that front end. Good girl. The more control you have of that head, neck, and shoulder, the easier it is to steer the horse. That's why I like to get them outside guiding around those trees a lot. I'll trot circles around trees and weave them in and out because it gives them a purpose and gets them to follow their nose. Good girl.
Fundamentals has shown you the basics. Now it's time to put those principles into practice. Get out of the arena and get on the trail. This all-new supplement will show you how to apply the method on the trail. You get 10 instruction-packed DVDs and 2 hardcover books. That's over $800 worth of training for only $3.99. Get up, get out, and get on the trail.
I've been getting a lot of questions lately, mate, about 2 products. First of all, the Aussie saddle and the Legacy boots, why I use each one of these products, okay? Well, first of all, the Aussie saddles is what I call a half-breed. It's half Western, half Australian. The Australian front on it, okay, these knee pads here, what they do is they give you a lot more security and feel when you're in the saddle. A lot of people, when you come off a horse, not always of course, but a lot of people come off over the front end. Like if the horse stops quickly or spooks or shies, a lot of people will lose their balance and come off the front. Now, I'm not saying you don't ever come off the back, surely you can, okay? But most of the time, if you really notice how riders come off, the horse jumps, turns, or whirls around and spooks, and they come off over the front end. What these knee pads do is they kind of grab you here on the inner thighs here. So if you get out of position and you lose your balance, you see how they grab you here? They give you a lot more security in your seat. Okay, like a lot of Australian stock saddles initially, 100 years ago were designed for a lot of those bucking horses that would really jump up in the air and break in half, and those buck jumpers, okay? Well, that's why they were designed, to help the rider stay in the saddle, okay? So that's what the front piece here does. I like personally having a horn on it as well, that I can tie my McCarty reins to or hang on to for a little extra security. The saddle comes with a horn or without a horn. It's just personal preference. I personally prefer the horn, but some people don't. But that's what these knee pads do. Now, I also get a lot of questions about the correct size of saddle, okay? I like a saddle, but there is a space behind my butt here. I don't want to have a saddle so small that I'm jammed in it that my butt is sitting right back here on the cantle. I like to have a small pocket here behind me so that when I go to stop, I can sink down into that. So when I'm riding around, we have a little saying, sit before you pull. So when I go to pick up on the reins, I always want to sit down and sink down into that saddle. And when I lower my hips into that saddle, I want to have this pocket that I fit into. But if you're already sitting on the back of your cantle, the only thing you can do is lean back, and that's not what you want to do. You want to melt into those stops. If you see those sliding stops that we do at the reining shows, we gallop down there and just whoa, and just melt into that, and you kind of round your back like the horse does, and you just melt into those stops, okay? So it's very, very important. I also like to have just a little bit of space here in front of my legs as well. That way, I just don't want to feel like I'm stuffed in there, but I don't want to feel like I'm swimming either. So a little bit of a gap here in the front and a gap here behind. The other thing I like about these saddles, let me get off and show you this, is what we call free swinging fenders. Okay, I want to have a fender that's really easy for me to move around. A lot of Western saddles, especially kind of big, bulky ones, they don't give you very good freedom with your leg. I want to be able to place my leg back here if I want to yield his hindquarters, move his shoulders, or anywhere in between. So a free swinging fender is very, very important. It comes with a back cinch, okay? I personally like a saddle with a back cinch because it stops the saddle from rising up in the back. And I especially like to break my horses in with a back cinch because that way, if you ever sell the horse to somebody else that rides with a back cinch, your horse will be used to it, okay? Where if you break them in with a saddle that only has a front cinch, they might be fine, but if you ever sell them or you ever go to ride that horse with a saddle with a back cinch, you better watch out because they might buck you off because it's a new feeling for them, isn't it? Okay. Now on Cider, I use a breast collar on her when I'm riding her. Just the shape of her, she has a tendency to have the saddle slide too far back on her if I don't ride her with a breast collar, okay? So each horse is a little bit different, but as a general rule, if you ride your horse with a breast collar, it'll keep the saddle in a little bit better position there, okay? I like a seat to be deep enough that when I go to stop, I've got this pocket here to sit down into. Okay, so you can get the saddles with a rough out seat and fenders if you want. And I want a cantle that's deep enough, but not so high, but it pokes me in the lower back. Okay, that's one of your first signs that you're leaning back too much if you find that your cantle is poking you in here in the back of the pants right here. You want to be able to sit deep into this pocket here, okay? I deliberately cut away the skirts of the saddle here to allow it to basically just cut down on the weight, okay? I want it easy enough for if you're a relatively small person that you can throw the saddle up on the horse and it doesn't weigh very much and it's easy to, maneuver and get around on your horses. A good saddle that fits your horse correctly and fits you correctly is a key part of horsemanship. If your saddle is digging into the horse's withers, okay, or it's not feeling comfortable for you, you're not going to be able to do a good job training your horse. The next question I get a bunch of questions about is the legacy boots. And a lot of people say, well, Clinton, why do you need the front boots on your horses? I use these legacy boots to protect my horse from banging against himself, okay? When you're asking your horse to do any sort of lateral movement where one leg crosses over in front of the other leg, just like with Cider, when I was asking her to yield to forequarters and getting her to step across and yield to forequarters, when they pick up one leg and step across, like when they're going to do a rollback, if you don't have boots on them and they hit themselves, which they inevitably will at stages, whenever they hit themselves, it hurts. Whenever it hurts, it discourages the horse from wanting to do it again. So I use the legacy boots to protect my horse from whacking one leg against the other leg. So anytime they do whack themselves with the Legacy boot, you see how it has a padded inseam here, which protects the horse. If he goes to whack a leg against the other leg, it's not going to hurt the horse. The other reason why I like to use the Legacy boot is it supports and cradles all of their tendons and ligaments down here. You know, you've heard the old saying, you know, no legs, no horse. Well, that's exactly right. You better protect those ligaments and tendons, because if you bow a tendon or a ligament, you're going to have your horse off for quite a few months before you can bring him back. And even when you bring him back, he may never quite get back to where he should be, okay? I like to get the Legacy boots nice and tight when I'm working with them. I get it underneath the cradle here, and I kind of lift up, and then I pull the second strap and get it nice and tight, and now the first strap. And then I'll do the cradle part, like right here. Okay, I get it nice and tight. So that way, when I'm riding the horse, it's supporting their ligaments and tendons. Now, if I ever tie the horse up, I always take the boots off, because they're not designed to leave on your horse all day. It makes their legs too hot if they're just standing still, okay? So the Legacy boots will protect them. It'll make it easier for your horse to get around and support their tendons and ligaments a lot more. Remember, if you don't take care of your horse on the ground and under saddle, they're not going to be able to perform correctly for you. So you might say, well, Clinton, if I don't do reining or cutting and I'm not doing spins and rollbacks and things like that, would I need the Legacy boots? Well, especially when you go out in a trail, your horse is stepping over logs, going down big gullies, they're inevitably, you know, being accidental, going to step on themselves, whack themselves, etc. I don't want them, if your horse whacks himself good enough, he's going to get a big splint on the inside of his leg. A big splint is going to devalue your horse. It's going to make him lame for, you know, a couple of weeks until it heals up. You just don't want that. So even if you're a trail rider, you always need to protect your horse's legs, okay? So the right tools will make a big difference in training your horse. So what I'm going to do with Cider here now is I'm going to take her out of the arena, and I just want to go and walk, trot, and do some trail riding out her for a good 15, 20 minutes outside, and just put some steady miles under her feet. Remember, long rides, wet saddle pads, and concentrated training is truly how you get a truly broke horse. 3 equal doses of those things, okay? It's kind of a hot day today here in Texas, so I'm not going to be able to ride her forever, but I do want to just put some steady miles on her outside. So listen, mate, until next week, make sure you keep practicing getting your horses soft laterally. Make sure you go to the website and sign up for Cider on our website, okay? And in a few more weeks, we'll be giving her away. Take care of yourself, mate, and we'll see you next week.